Coming to you from a cozy little condo high atop Old Fourth Ward, Atlanta. Welcome to The Ron Show on America One Radio. Here's your host, Ron Roberts.
So for many of us, the alarm clock gets us up this morning. Just another day. Getting up to go earn a few bucks. Some of you may be getting up to go to college, go to school. No big deal, right? It's a huge deal today. A big deal emotionally in nearby Winder, Georgia.
Happening today, Apalachee High School students are getting ready for school this morning for the first time in nearly 3 weeks. On Monday, an open house. Today will be a half day of learning. Channel 2's Taisha Fernandez is live outside Apalachee High School in Barrow County. And Ty, it's been less than a month since 4 people were killed there.
And Lori, that's exactly why it'll be a gradual reopening at this school. Administrators are sensitive to the comeback for everyone. I want to give you a look at what the open house looked like yesterday. Students and staff, parents too, walked into this building for the first time since a student was accused of killing 2 other students and 2 teachers. Administrators told us this open house was a success. They said 90% of students will be returning to class this week. Only certain parts of the building will be used, as the places where the actual shooting took place will remain closed. We spoke to some students about what it was like to be back at Apalachee High.
Being in that building today, I truly believed I was ready, but it's harder than I thought it was going to be.
Wow.
And I imagine other students will feel the same exact way as they head back to classes this morning. There will be lots of security at the school, both security students can see and security they can't see. I just want to mention also that certain classes will be moved to another campus called Chi East. Students will be bused there until their pods arrive in January. Students will come back for full days of classes after the fall break next month. We will be here throughout the morning in this designated spot for media, and we'll share with you how the morning goes. For now, we're live here in Barrow County. Taisha Fernandez, Channel 2 Action News this morning.
That was earlier this morning from WSB TV Channel 2 Atlanta. From WXIA TV Atlanta.
Recently, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson invited the Apalachee High School football team to visit him at the production soundstage in Atlanta, where he's filming a project. Now, among those killed during the tragedy was one of the school's football coaches, Richard Aspinwall, also known as Coach A. In his Instagram post, The Rock says, "I didn't know what to expect when I walked in to meet them. I was absolutely blown away by their spirit and their energy. I looked at these kids in their eyes and hugged them. I know they're in great pain, but man, they are resilient and staying strong." It was as if they just needed a person and an opportunity to just let it all go in this moment. As we said goodbyes, the last kid I hugged said, "We needed this." So did I. I began to imagine what these players and all the students, teachers, and staff at Apalachee High School are going through right now. But I am here in any and every way I can be to give my support and love to them and their families as they begin their healing journey. God bless you all. We are one Apalachee.
Just listening to that story kind of got the waterworks going a little bit for me this morning. I apologize if it did that to you as well. That's goosebump-inducing stuff to see so many folks rallying around, putting their arms around these students as much as is possible. I also want to share one more story from a local Fox affiliate, WAGA TV, Fox 5. I saw this actually on Instagram and then looked for the story just to give you a little background before I share some of the music.
A now viral song pays respect to the victims and survivors of the Apalachee High School shooting.
Yeah, and the student is the person behind the lyrics.
Another mother lost her baby. I'm sending prayers to those kids up in Grady. It could have been me. I'm glad the Lord saved me. I gotta be strong. No, I can't let the devil break.
That's Isaac Sanguma. He attends Apalachee High School, and his now viral song, Forever Iremie, honors the victims of this month's school shooting. He knew one of the victims well. We're talking about his teacher, Christina Iremie. One of the 4 people killed was one of his teachers. The song has reached millions of people already on TikTok.
And let me just tell you, I worked in pop radio for about 25-ish of my years in radio broadcasting. I would say the last 12 or so. I was in charge of managing radio stations. I was actually the program director for several radio stations, from Louisiana to South Carolina to here in Atlanta. Choosing the songs that were going to make it on the air was a part of the job, culminating, calling together a playlist. Not all stations play I say that. Now with corporate radio, most radio stations of the same format do play the same songs, but it used to be a lot more of a local decision for the station's program director to determine what songs that program director, better knowing his or her station's and community's audience, it was their job to add the songs that they thought were going to be hits. You would hear, new music first on blah blah blah. That song, those songs were chosen by the program director. I say all that to say that I listened to a lot of music over the years. I had a lot of record label folks pitching me songs and telling me, oh, this is going to be a smash. And, that's their job too, because they're just basically like drug reps for music. They're just going from town to town trying to hawk the latest song. I listened to this and I thought, there's something here. And I mean, it's been 5 years since I've been out of the game, so I may be completely wrong. But I'm going to give this kid some credit because it really, first of all, sonically sounds fantastic. And the lyrics absolutely get you.
Another mother lost her baby. I'm sending prayers to those kids up in Grady. It could have been me. I'm glad the Lord saved me. I gotta be strong. No, I can't let the devil break. I thank the Lord that he ain't take. And I'm still trying to process his drama. Another mother lost her child. It could have been my mama. I won't see Miss Army for a while. Man, I can't cope this trauma. If they lost their daddy, they ain't left for no one but they mama. I'm hurting for his daughters. It's crazy till the girls won't grow up with their father. The school ain't gonna be the same. I gotta keep my guard up. It can't break down. I know Miss Army want me to go harder. Mama, I'm on TV now. Them people see me now. They want this to be my exposure.
Isaac Sanguma is the young man behind that, and I think about the teacher in particular, Christine Irmy. I'm reading this from NPR, and this is what got me. Her birthday had just passed on August 24th. So to celebrate, she baked a cake and brought pizza for her class on the day. That is just the kind of person Irmy was, according to one of her good friends, Gabriel Booth. We get real jaded societally about kids and, think, I guess just from the outside perspective looking in, well, I don't want to be a school teacher, man. These kids are no respect, yada, yada, yada. And yet you see these stories and this interaction and the emotions coming off of such a horrific event, an event that no kid in a modern society should have to live through, to survive, to emote to, and you just can't help but be moved by how these kids are handling it and how this community is trying to move on. And to hear these anecdotal stories about how close the student body was with the teachers that were lost. She brought pizza and cake to school to share with her kids. And a young man, we think so much about teenage boys and how rough they can be and distant, and maybe even you can't just dwell on the generational divide. Maybe you might even think, African American student may not have as much regard for a white teacher or this. You just hear all of these things, all of these preconceived notions about all the various, in many ways, that there can be divisions just inside a school. And yet, Isaac wrote a rap song about the teacher who brought pizza and cake to celebrate her birthday with her kids. Why do we keep letting this happen? I don't want to hear about mental health and tightening school security. Not going to suggest that those aren't measures, but they're not solutions. They're not ironclad. And No solution is, but the obvious is staring us in the face and we refuse to do a thing about it. So those kids are going back to a percentage, a fraction of their school today to wander some, not all, of the halls of their school today. Can't go to the places in the school where the shootings happened because, there are still active investigations. The 4 have been laid to rest, but there's still a lot to learn, I suppose. And also, what child, what student, what teacher, what faculty member, janitorial staffers, who wants to wander into that classroom or go down that corridor where one of those 4 perished? And that's the kind of school kids have to live through today in America. Friend of the show, opinion columnist from the Georgia Recorder, Jay Bookman, wrote a piece that I will share with you in just a minute. For some GOP leaders, there's no time like never to discuss gun safety policies. They cannot be moved. The death of children, the death of caring and loving teachers, the ones that we entrust with the mental and educational, intellectual, and now physical wellness. Their deaths, the deaths of students, do not move the GOP. The party that professes to be pro-life cannot be moved to act on this in any way, shape, form, or fashion. We'll give you Jay Bookman's piece in just a few minutes. This is The Ron Show. Thank you for listening on America One Radio, AmericaOneRadio.com, Progressive Voices via TuneIn, or wherever you podcast. Thank you for doing that. Show notes are always provided for The Ron Show after each episode at RonShowATL.com. You can follow the show on your preferred social media at RonShowATL, Twitter, X, Facebook, Instagram, Threads. Jay Bookman in the Georgia Recorder last week, gosh, it's been 5 days, posted this opinion piece, and it should anger us to action, and yet we've lived through the era of the lack of an assault weapons ban now for 20 years. The Republican Party at the federal level let that expire at the behest of the National Rifle Association. And millions and millions and millions and millions and millions over the years of dollars in lobbying money. And even with a weakened NRA, the culture has now set in. The mindset has set in. The Second Amendment is absolute. I mean, except the part about the whole well-regulated militia part. Ignore that. The rest of it is absolute. There is almost literally no other constitutional amendment that is absolute. But that one, for whatever reason, is absolute. Okay, Jay Bookman filing this report. And I thought I'd share this with you on the day that we have students heading back to class at Apalachee High School in nearby Winder, Georgia. When nursing student Laken Riley was tragically murdered here in Georgia last February, allegedly at the hands of a Venezuelan immigrant, Governor Brian Kemp and his fellow Republicans didn't hesitate. They knew immediately who was at fault and knew exactly what steps needed to be taken. Kemp, for example, used Fox News and social media to pin the murder on the Biden administration. Joe Biden's failed policies have turned every state into a border state, and I'm demanding information from him so we can protect our people when the federal government work. That's what Kemp said on his Twitter X platform handle. U.S. Representative Mike Collins, a Republican congressman who represents the Athens area where the Riley murder occurred, was equally quick to respond. The blood of Laken Riley is on the hands of Joe Biden. Homeland Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas and the government of Athens-Clarke County. However, Jay Bookman writes, when 4 innocent people, 2 students and 2 teachers, were murdered in Collins District this month, allegedly by a 14-year-old student armed with an assault rifle, Kemp, Collins, and most of their fellow Republicans acted stupefied at who to blame or what public officials could possibly do to address it. They didn't even think the problem of school shootings worthy of discussion. For example, when Kamala Harris responded by calling the shooting senseless and noting that, quote, it does not have to be this way, Collins acted offended. In my opinion, it's not the right time to talk about what we see out there, Collins said. We've got to get back to God in this country. We have really gotten away from that, from a moral standpoint. There's a lot of issues out there. She's dead wrong to bring that up at this time. It's just not the right time. Kemp has taken a similar head-in-the-ground approach, Jay Bookman writes. I'm very interested in making sure we learn all the facts, certainly before I try and weigh in on policy issues. Governor Kemp said that more than a week after the shooting. Bookman continues, we will never know, quote, all the facts, and apparently the right time to debate such issues is never. But here's a few facts we do know for sure. Repeated studies prove that immigrants, legal or otherwise, are less likely to commit crimes than native-born Americans. America has far more guns in civilian hands than any other industrialized nation, and far more people are killed with guns in America than in any other country. If more guns in more hands made us safer, we would be the safest country on the planet, but the opposite is true. Bookman opines, or maybe, as Collins seems to suggest, countries such as France, Japan, Great Britain, and Germany, with much lower homicide rates, just enjoy God's favor more than we do, he asks. Another point he adds, the leading cause of childhood deaths in this country is by firearm. Last point he adds, homicide rates are significantly higher in red states with lax gun safety laws than in blue states with more strict gun laws. It's also worth noting that on a 2018 campaign ad, Kemp posed with a shotgun in his lap surrounded by assault weapons and other firearms as he queried a young boy about dating his daughter. Apparently, our governor deemed that an appropriate use of deadly firearms. And in a 2022 campaign ad for Congress, Collins also posed with an assault weapon as he claimed that the 2020 election in Georgia had been stolen from Donald Trump and it was time to set things right. Georgians are sick and tired of weak-kneed, spineless politicians who won't fight for Trump and get to the bottom of 2020 and fix our election, he said in the ad. Well, if they won't do it, Mike Collins will. He then wheels and fires at a target, which explodes on impact. Apparently, Collins has no qualms about modeling the use of firearms as an instrument of political change. Jake Bookman concludes his opinion piece, and yes, I'll include it in the show notes at ronshowatl.com. This is not a rational situation. This is a cultural sickness. Guns are being marketed by manufacturers and politicians alike as the solution to crime, to political disputes, to lack of self-esteem, to doubts about gun owners' masculinity. To many, guns have become a cult object. And if protecting that cult object means we have to act helpless in the face of mass shootings that kill dozens and school shootings that slaughters helpless children, well, those are sacrifices that the gun god insists be paid, and too many, he says, are willing to do so. And I know the focus today is on the return of about 90% of the student body at Apalachee High School today. And God bless them and the faculty members that are there to welcome them and to try and create this sense of normalcy in a not normal setting. Our thoughts have to be with them today, and our hope for the best, our hope that, once the school bell rings and textbooks open again and iPads are on and teachers start teaching, that those kids' minds can be put on the task at hand, which is, learning and growing and heading on into the world with their education. It's going to be tough. But they're not the only student body, they're not the only campus where parents send their kids off into the world with those parents having absolutely no certainty whatsoever anymore in this country that they will see their kids when they come home from work today, when those kids come home from school today. There's just no more absolute certainty anymore. We're just, I hope little Johnny or hope little Becky comes home. Because for the last 20 years, politically in this country, we have an inert party that wishes to do nothing but post social media photos with them and their family on Christmas in their pajamas, all wielding assault rifles, because that's what families get together to celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ. That's what they do. They show off their love of family with assault rifles. Mike Collins will give you that hard rock music TV commercial where he's wielding a semi-automatic, shooting at pieces of paper in the woods, because that makes him a badass. While he bootlicks for some city-slicking grifter, Donald John Trump. Boy, what a badass. Yeah, you're a real tough guy. Spineless, feckless weasel. And essentially taker of taxpayer dollars, because when push comes to shove and you need to do your job, you, Governor Kemp, the rest of the GOP who refuses to act when America needs it, you're just taking our money on payday. Back after this.
Broadcasting 5 days a week to make common sense common again. This is The Ron Show on America One Radio.
I know that we have paywalls and that folks who really work hard for what they do should get paid for it. I mean, I work hard for this podcast, but I'm not asking you to pay for it. Although you can make a donation if you'd like at ronshowatl.com if you want to. I'm not forcing you to. I'm not going to put up a paywall or anything like that. This show is readily available on America One Radio, weekdays 9 to 10 a.m., replay 5 to 6 p.m. We also play this at Progressive Voices via TuneIn, 7 to 8 p.m. And those are all free services, downloadable free apps to listen to. You can listen to the show via podcast. There's so many ways to listen to this show. And again, I'm not going to sit here and put up a paywall. I respect a paywall, however, because, again, the journalism industry is imperiled by for-profit motives. We've seen what the cable news environment looks like. We've drawn our lines. We've decided to chase the money instead of the story and the facts. And it's had an impact. Look at us societally. We're crazily divided between those who just want to live their lives. You've got those on the right, the far right, who facts, science, data, math be damned. You've got those on the left who may listen to NPR all the time, may be stuck inside their own little bubble, maybe... I don't really want to spend too much time generalizing on like the elbow pads on the professorial jackets and stuff like that. But there is a little bit of a tribalism on all sides. And journalism, at the end of the day, can be what really guides us and brings no, that's not really happening out into the discussion. I remember Senator John McCain, when he was running for president, he had to tell one of his own followers at a town hall, no, ma'am, that's not true. And we're missing a lot of that. In fact, we're driven more by the faction that wants to believe everything that they hear from cable TV news or second, third, fourth hand recollection. J.D. Vance exposed for that by John Oliver on Last Week Tonight, which airs on HBO Max, which is what I was getting to all along about a paywall. I'm not usually one that says, I'm just going to give this to you for free because I respect the paywall. And in fact, I actually know people who work for, HBO Max and Time Warner and blah, 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 blah. And these folks got to get paid. But sometimes a conversation needs to be heard in its entirety. And John Oliver and the folks at Last Week Tonight, to me, kind of gave you a proper synopsis of all that has happened to the poor town of Springfield, Ohio, over a batch of misinformation that from the start, the folks at Last Week Tonight surmise Senator J.D. Vance knew was misinformation and still decided to make use of for not just partisan gain, but for xenophobic gain, to stir the anti-immigrant, xenophobic, racist pot that his campaign and his party rely on far too much. So without further ado, I'm going to give you the audio from John Oliver's Last Week Tonight segment all about J.D. Vance, known misinformation, and the ramifications, the repercussions on the poor town of Springfield, Ohio. Take a listen.
I know that happened over a week ago, and there have been plenty of cat-eating jokes since, but I still want to talk about this, both because the chaos Trump stirred up in Springfield is ongoing and because it feels emblematic of his campaign. And before we go any further, to be clear, city officials insist there is no evidence of what Trump confidently spewed to 67 million people, and in doing so, he was actually repeating something that had been posted by his running mate, J.D. Vance, a man who always looks like a yassified chipmunk, the day before the debate. He posted that Haitian illegal immigrants were causing chaos all over Springfield, Ohio, and reports now show that people have had their pets abducted and eaten by people who shouldn't be in this country, which, among other things, makes it sound like eating pets is a right reserved for natural-born Americans. And when asked about it since, Vance has insisted he was just reflecting people's concerns.
The media has tried to say now for days that I've made up this story. I haven't made up anything. I've just listened to people who were telling me these things.
Wait. If enough people say it, I repeat it? It is not ideal when an aspiring vice president's guiding philosophy is indistinguishable from a f***ing parrot's. And look, obviously, an attack like that isn't remotely new. We've demonised immigrants in all sorts of ways, including by accusing them of eating pets, for centuries now. But it is worth looking at what's actually been happening in Springfield, because it's interesting and reveals how far from just repeating claims he's heard, Vance has actually helped create much of the chaos he's now trying to exploit. Because it is true that Springfield had a significant influx of Haitian immigrants in the last few years. Amid tumult in Haiti, the US granted a certain number of Haitian immigrants temporary protected status, making them eligible for social security numbers and work permits. At the same time, companies in Springfield faced a worker shortage, and many Haitian immigrants moved there after being recruited by local companies for jobs that locals were not filling. Or, as J.D. Vance puts all that,
20,000 migrants, primarily from Haiti, have been dropped into Springfield, Ohio.
OK, first, there is only one Haiti-related mispronunciation that we recognise in this house, and it's Alicia Silverstone in Clueless delivering the iconic line, and so if the government could just get into the kitchen, rearrange some things, we could certainly party with the Haitians. But second, those people weren't dropped into Springfield. They chose to go somewhere companies were actively recruiting them. And for the record, after the Haitians came, the local economy boomed. Yep. Springfield even flew the flag of Haiti at City Hall last year for Haitian Flag Day, which is not to say there haven't been issues incorporating the new population. City services have been strained. Housing has been tight. And the number of non-native English speakers in the public schools quadrupled to more than 1,000 children. Those are significant challenges. But there are also issues that can be addressed with additional government funding. And it's the town's efforts to procure that actually started us on the path to where we are right now. Because back in July, the Springfield city manager sent this letter to the Senate Banking and Housing Committee to say the city of Springfield is facing a significant housing crisis, that there were key initiatives, policies and programmes that the community could implement to solve them, and asking for further support at the federal level to ramp up that work. J.D. Vance was CC'd on that letter, and the very next day, he chose to read a carefully selected part of it at a hearing.
Springfield's Haitian population has increased 15 to 20,000 over the last 4 years in a community of under 60,000 previous residents, putting a significant strain on our resources and ability to provide ample housing for all of our residents. And end quote there.
Oh, end quote there. Well, that is a choice, because you kept the part of the letter citing a problem, left out the part pointing at a solution, and didn't even mention the funding request. What Vance did do was put out a press release highlighting that moment with the headline featuring the phrase Haitian migrant crisis in Springfield, Ohio, despite the letter specifically saying significant housing crisis, not Haitian migrant crisis. But I guess we now know it is a mistake to expect precise wording from Vance when it comes to anything Haitian related. And in doing that, Vance put Springfield directly in the conservative media spotlight. Fox highlighted the story a few days later, citing the Vance hearing, and there was a spate of articles in right-wing outlets and tweets from conservative accounts, with even Elon himself weighing in. Just a month later, a neo-Nazi group called Blood Tribe showed up in Springfield, and about a dozen masked members carrying banners adorned with swastikas marched there in what they called an anti-Haitian immigration march. One of their leaders even tried to address the city council.
I've come to bring a word of warning. Stop what you're doing before it's too late. Crime and savagery will only increase with every Haitian you bring in. And with it, public frustration and anger.
You sound threatening to me. I'm going to...
Based on the comments
if I could ask the police to go ahead.
I'm sure I don't need to tell you that.
Just sound threatening if you go ahead and just peacefully be removed.
These people didn't ask for this. And they deserve better than to have to put up with violent, unruly outsiders.
You're done. Thank you. That's all. Thank you so much. Not really, thank you.
Okay. I know that. Thank you so much. You're done. Not really, thank you. Might not sound harsh, but remember, Ohio is the Midwest. That's the equivalent of them saying, get fucked, you dime store Nazi. Enjoy shoveling shit in hell, you already dress like you shop there. And it was around this time that rumours started ramping up online about Haitians eating local animals. This photo made the rounds, supposedly of a Haitian man carrying a goose in Springfield, though, as TMZ of all outlets later reported, it turned out to be someone in Columbus, Ohio, picking up 2 geese that were hit in a car accident. That photo went from Facebook to Twitter to Gab, the social media platform for white supremacists, where it was shared by Blood Tribe, which then spread more rumours about Haitians eating local animals. Yep. Then there was this Facebook post from a Springfield woman saying her neighbour's daughter's friend had seen a cat hanging from a branch like you do a deer for butchering. It got screen grabbed on Twitter and was then picked up and posted alongside the photo of the man in Columbus by a big MAGA account and went viral. Now, for the record, the woman who wrote that original post has since admitted she had no first-hand knowledge of any such incident and has since deleted the post, thankfully fixing everything.
Right.
But the point here is this pet-eating panic was built on nothing. And when reporters asked Springfield residents where they'd heard these rumours, it was pretty clear where they were all coming from.
You have them going to Snyder Park and chopping off ducks' heads in front of little kids and stuff.
You really think that happened? I mean, the city says they don't have evidence that it happened.
Yes. I've seen pictures, especially social media and where I've worked, supervisors like, hey, look at this.
You think that stuff that you're seeing on social media is true and actually happening?
Yeah, there's been like pictures of people walking off with ducks, so I tend to believe it. I haven't seen anything myself, really.
I see a lot of pets that have disappeared.
Really?
On Facebook.
What do you know? What have you seen?
I know all our ducks are gone.
Okay. First, it is wild to see that all our ducks are gone and jump to it being evidence of a duck-eating frenzy and not, I don't know, ducks having the capacity for flight. But also, social media clearly isn't a place for reliable information. No. As we all know, it is for realising on Father's Day that all your friends once had weirdly hot dads. Every other use of it is wrong. But it is one thing for those people not to fact-check this. To be fair, some clearly had sick Dragon Ball Z hats to be shopping for. But for J.D. Vance to happily repeat it without checking is deeply irresponsible.
Here's the most shocking part of this. I hate to say expose from last week tonight because this is supposed to be a funny show, but it's actually a lot like The Daily Show. Reality is funny. Anyway, here's where they zero in on J.D. Vance knowing it was BS before he used it to stir the pot.
Except here's the thing. He did check. It turns out, not long after his first post about Haitians eating pets, his campaign actually called the Springfield city manager who remembers Vance's staffer asked point blank, are the rumours true of pets being taken and eaten? And he said, I told him no. So Vance knew it was a lie this whole time. But instead of just admitting that, he and his campaign have been scrambling to dig up new bullshit evidence, all of which either bears no resemblance to the claims that he's made or falls apart at the slightest scrutiny. At one point, his campaign sent the Wall Street Journal this police report from a Springfield resident claiming her missing cat had been stolen and possibly eaten by Haitians. Something even the cop seems dubious of, pointing out she found meat in the backyard, thinks it was from her cat. No bones or fur around the meat. She suspects the Haitian neighbours. No evidence to support this claim. And when a journal reporter visited that woman, she admitted she found her cat, named Miss Sassy, in her basement a few days later. So she couldn't find her cat, seemingly didn't even finish checking her own house, and her first assumption was, my neighbours ate it and left the remains in the yard. I'd better call the police. What is she like when she can't find the remote? 911, the Venezuelans are at it again. And while Vance passing that on as evidence is a comically stupid thing to do, it is also deeply reckless. Schools and hospitals in Springfield have been closed because of bomb threats. And as this local community leader points out, Haitians in Springfield are now living in fear.
Even yesterday, I got a friend calling me, asking me if he has to leave because he's scared for his life. It's very shocking and sad at the same time, especially coming from people seeking the high office of our land, high-ranking people. I think they should do better. They have everything at their disposal to check the veracity of anything that they hear.
Oh, yeah, they do. They just don't care. And to be clear, these aren't fun lies that you can happily spread around without checking, like gumballs are fossilised clown testicles or the green Teletubby was played by a young Joaquin Phoenix. These are lies that could get people hurt. Yep. And when Vance isn't circulating flimsy evidence, he's been making wild, toxic claims, from implying Haitians are spreading tuberculosis and HIV, which is untrue, to saying a child was murdered by a Haitian migrant who had no right to be here. What he was doing there was seizing on the story of an 11-year-old who was killed in a collision between a school bus and a minivan driven by a Haitian immigrant. And the father of that boy has clearly said he doesn't want his child's death to be exploited in this way. He even showed up to a town meeting the night of the presidential debate to make that point.
The last thing that we need is to have the worst day of our lives violently and constantly shoved in our faces. But even that's not good enough for them. They take it one step further. Yep. They make it seem as though our wonderful Aiden appreciates your hate, that we should follow their hate. To clear the air, my son, Aiden Clark, was not murdered. He was accidentally killed by an immigrant from Haiti. Did you know that he researched different cultures to better appreciate and understand people that he interacted with? Did you know that one of the worst feelings in the world is to not be able to protect your child? Even worse, we can't even protect his memory when he's gone. Please stop the hate. I said to Aiden that I would try to make a difference in his honor. This is it. Live like Aiden. Thank you.
That man didn't need any of this bullshit, and neither did Springfield. And the thing is, it's not over yet. Just this week, Trump said he plans to visit Springfield, despite the local mayor, a Republican, clearly asking him not to. As for Vance, he keeps bragging that he got the national media to pay attention to Springfield, even saying, if I have to create stories so that the American media actually pays attention to the suffering, then that's what I'm going to do. Yep. But here's the thing. They didn't ask for attention. They asked for help. Vance is the one who wanted attention, and that clearly took priority here, because while he's remarkably bad at a lot of things, writing books, delivering speeches, ordering donuts like a human from Earth, it turns out he's actually pretty good at parroting racist lies like the spineless dipshit that he is. And frankly, the only appropriate response to all of this is strong outrage, swift condemnation. And come November, a voter turnout that collectively says to the Trump campaign, in the words of an understandably frustrated Springfield official, thank you, you're done. Not really thank you.
Good day, sir. Reminds me, though, Willy Wonka clip. I think I said this last week. This sort of encapsulates or epitomizes MAGA extremism in the GOP. They don't wish to solve problems. When problems are brought to their attention, instead of solving the problem, immigration, bipartisan deal on southern border and immigration issues, they decide to capitalize on them instead, because helping someone seek office is way more important than solving problems. This is The Ron Show. All right, final few minutes of The Ron Show. Thank you for listening, by the way. RonShowATL.com for all the show notes, although I don't think the Last Week Tonight segment is going to be available just yet, but when it is, well, you know what? There is a YouTube link already saved, so I'll have that for you, and at some point in time you'll be able to click it and watch the entire episode. It's fantastic. HBO Max it's worth that little bit of extra money each month, but I've also been the one telling you to maybe curb your streaming services if cost of living's gotten a little high. I'm going to be cutting a few, as a matter of fact, myself here over the winter time, and hopefully getting super busy as real estate starts picking up with interest rates. Maybe just pump the brakes a little bit. The prime rate that the Fed just dropped, mortgage rates were already ahead of the curve. Just saying, if you come to me saying, hey, what are interest rates like now? What are mortgage rates like now? Mortgage rates already kind of did their thing. But by the way, feel free to hit me up at Ron on the Real on your preferred social media platforms as well. I happen to be a real estate agent, and I'm happy to answer your questions about that. Over the weekend on the campaign trail, we got to talk about one more lie that the Trump-Vance team is out there circulating. And this is so silly. This is so silly. Kamala Harris has famously said that as a child, she grew up, her first job was working at McDonald's. They've been attacking that because McDonald's corporate, which doesn't have record of too many people working at local McDonald's, when I believe the majority of them, if it's not the majority, it's like close to 50% or more of majority. I think it's the majority of McDonald's franchises are franchise owned, locally owned. So the franchise owner would be the ones keeping records of their employees and not McDonald's corporate. Anyway, Donald Trump on the stump this weekend mocking Kamala Harris working as a teenager in fast food. Who among us didn't do that, or grocery or retail or something along those lines? Donald Trump mocking that.
She didn't find him to be fine. She lied. She lied about McDonald's. She said she worked in McDonald's.
Jesus.
She said she worked in McDonald's. Oh, she worked over the French fries. It was so hot.
It gets worse.
The heat. It was so hot. She'd burn her hand every once in a while.
Wait, what?
On the grease. Oh, McDonald's. It was a lie. She never worked at McDonald's. And the fake news doesn't want to mention it. They had a big thing about her job at McDonald's, and they went there, and the manager's been there a long time. Other people have been there a long time, say, no, she never worked here.
There's no such person.
Never worked here. She lied. That sounds simple, but that's really bad. It was a pure and simple lie. She never worked at McDonald's. And didn't Oprah ask her about her time at McDonald's? And she just sort of didn't want to answer that one. Let me not talk about that. Oprah said, you work at McDonald's. That's great. Oprah didn't hear the end result. She never worked there. So Kamala just sort of hid under the desk along with every other answer she gave.
Oh, okay. The hid under the desk part, the Lewinsky insinuation as well. See, I mean, what are you going to do with this crowd? Hopefully you're registered, and in Georgia, check your registration. I have to do it once a week just in case my damn self, because there is a voter deregistration portal. It's fairly easy to deregister someone with just a little bit of information, like what is the last 4 digits of my social and my date of birth and my first and last name and address. So I got to check that. And then, of course, make a plan to vote. And as we've heard already, we have expats and folks in our military branches working overseas, serving overseas, who are already starting to get their ballots. We got to do this, y'all. I mean, this is our moment. I don't know how else to say this. We cannot continue to let the bullshit generators get away with the misinformation, because they're leading their masses with bullshit like this.
And what a shame that is, right? What a shame that is. And you see how bad it's getting when you look at what's going on with the migrants attacking villages and cities all throughout the Midwest in particular right now, but it's all over.
No, what's attacking villages and cities throughout the Midwest is a senator representing those cities, those villages, those counties, that state in the Midwest, answering their pleas for assistance with white supremacy groups coming in with swastikas on their armbands, marching and showing up at City Hall to spew more racist, xenophobic bullshit and causing more chaos, bomb threats being called in, a media circus not being asked for instead of solutions. They're getting more headaches. It seems to me that the choice is pretty obvious, but that's going to do it for today's Ron Show. Show notes at RonShowATL.com. We replay 5 to 6 p.m. on America One Radio, 7 to 8 p.m. at Progressive Voices via TuneIn, and then via podcast. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow.